I continued with my herbal medicine, but we decided to have another child, my daughter. And again, I trained with her all the way through the entire pregnancy. And then it started to get harder to continue training jiu-jitsu. So we saw this place around the corner from our house that was open. I was like, what would it look like if we opened a gym right here just so we could be closer to home to train? Simply because we wanted to be selfish and have it closer to home to train was the instigation. Next thing we knew, we were looking at the place and we signed the lease. We didn't have any plan. We were just like, we'll figure it out. And that's what we did. We figured it out a year and a half ago, and it's going really well for us. And now we get to share our love for jiu-jitsu with everyone else.
Well, I love the San Gabriel Valley.
Welcome to the My SGV podcast.
So I grew up here and I still live in Alhambra.
I was raised in between Temple City and Alhambra.
Eventually resided in South San Gabriel.
Our mission is to capture and share the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley.
Monterey Park has pretty much been my whole life.
Well, I'm proud to say that I was born and raised in the San Gabriel Valley.
We believe our diversity is what makes the SGV great. And no matter where you are from in the San Gabriel Valley, you will feel welcome. All right, SGVers, welcome back to another episode of the My SGV podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If you are new here, we bring you the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. And if you are a returning listener, thank you so much for spending this time with us. We do appreciate it. It's just me and Victoria again today. So we're going to take care of things just like we have, I guess, maybe it was like, this is the third week in a row.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. We know that it's like 3 shows and, you know, we shoot 2 to 3 episodes a day here, right? Mm-hmm. So we're sometimes 4. I think we've had 4 before in the past.
Yeah.
Those are quite long days. Well, Victoria, have you ever experienced bullying in your life?
I don't think so. Probably the closest would be like sibling fights and that kind of thing when we were younger. But yeah, I was homeschooled, so a lot of it was, we were just kind of like at home and a lot of family stuff. So I don't think I've experienced like any bullying outside of the family.
Yeah, I don't think I've experienced bullying outside of my family. I've certainly experienced it within my family. And sadly, I think a lot of people's first bullies are their parents. But what I've noticed is this, right? Like people who get bullied, they either help others like become strong to stand up against bullying, or they become the bully. Like those are the 2 paths that I've seen with people who get bullied, right?
Yeah.
And like you can almost trace it. Like if you see someone who has this way, like at some point they were like that, and then someone who's like really going out of their way to help empower other people, that's also the difference, the different path that they've taken. So we're going to get into a story related to that today. But before that, I want to thank Paris Baguette for providing the delicious pastries for our guests today and every week. Thank you to Paris Baguette. Go check them out in the city of San Gabriel on Las Tunas and say hi to Jason for us. All right, let's get to today's guest. Today's guest is a powerhouse both on and off the mat. Known to many as TT, she's a homeschooling mom of 2, a jiu-jitsu black belt, and a business owner who juggles it all with grace and passion. Her jiu-jitsu journey started young, but it truly took off after she faced bullying in school as a teen. It was during this transformative time that she met her now husband and found a deeper love for the sport. She's also a master herbalist, having completed a 4-year post-education program out of Utah, and she's built a business in herbal medicine, even amidst the chaos of COVID shutdowns and motherhood. She's found time to share her knowledge of natural remedies and holistic health with others. Whether she's homeschooling, running her gym, Logic Jiu-Jitsu in Glendora, she's empowering kids to discover their own strength and confidence. Her commitment to nurturing and supporting her family is at the heart of everything she does. Let's give it up for Anthea Peter-Vallejo. Anthea, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate being invited to come on.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. So, just mother is pretty difficult and challenging and rewarding job, but you're so much more than that, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I've only become a mother 4.5 years ago. So before that, being a wife and a girlfriend even before that. But now that I am a mother, it does kind of consume me in a positive way. I don't mean that in a way of like I dread being around them. I homeschool, like I want to be around them. But a lot of my decisions on a daily basis, long-term decisions that my husband and I make is obviously for our kids and bettering. We grew up well, but making it even better for them.
Sure.
And economically, physically, emotionally, giving them a good base to start with. But yeah.
Well, Anthea, let's start with what is your connection to the San Gabriel Valley?
So I did not grow up in the San Gabriel Valley. I did not move to Sierra Madre until I was like 13, 14, right before high school. Actually wasn't a great introduction to the San Gabriel Valley. My parents were going through a separation. It was just my mom and I that moved here on our own. My brothers were already, I have older brothers, they were already moved on and out of the house. But it wasn't until a year or two later that my parents actually worked it out, and then my dad came back in and we reunited the family in a sense. And then Sierra Madre was my home for 8 years before my husband and I, first we moved to Doherty, and then my husband and I got a home in Glendora. So the last 15 years or so have been in the San Gabriel Valley, but it's been us. It feels very homey. I've lived in a lot of different places. I went to 10 different schools growing up, and the San Gabriel Valley has just felt the most uniting, I guess, in a way. There's a little bit of everything here, and it's nice that you get to experience everything, but still be close to home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you came here when you were a young teenager. Where did you come from?
All over Los Angeles. So I was born in Florida. My parents are immigrants from Switzerland, my dad, and Italy, my mom. So moving around was just kind of normal for us. We moved around every 2 or 3 years around Los Angeles once we moved to California. But I've lived in Van Nuys, I've lived in Sherman Oaks, I've lived in Burbank. Then it was Sierra Madre, and then Doherty and Glendora. But yeah, all over Southern California specifically.
What was that like, being uprooted every few years?
I mean, I don't know any different because that's just how it was for me, but I didn't mind it. It allowed me to learn how to make friends. I learned how to adapt to new environments. The downside is moving on from those friends. If you didn't get the chance to really build the relationship really strong, you ended up losing them. Mm-hmm. But I still have some of the friends from one of the first schools I went to in LA. We still follow each other on social media, helps a lot. But I don't know any different, so I love it. I don't mind moving. Like, I would do it again. If we were in the right place to do it, I would probably find another place to move.
I see. And then when your family landed in Sierra Madre, mm-hmm. you said it was a challenging time. Was it only because of what was going on with your parents, or was there other things? That
started it, and then I went to Arcadia High School. So Arcadia High School is a very big high school. There's about 4,000 students in the school. I only knew one person going into the school, and it's a very large Asian population. Me not being Asian, it was hard for me to kind of find a group to fit in with there. Didn't notice it too much freshman, sophomore year, just because I was still making the friends. But as I got towards junior and senior year, I guess fell in the wrong mindset of people, and they just decided to start talking, saying things, and that's where my bullying experience came from. Junior, senior year. I guess I just rubbed someone the wrong way for something, and it just started with little comments and then started getting a little bit more aggressive, following to the house type thing. Nothing ever happened, but that's where my realization that I wanted to get back into something that was going to give me confidence, like jiu-jitsu, is where that came from.
Following to the house is pretty serious.
To be fair, my neighbor, which is the one person that I knew, we lived in the same, it was a main house and a guest house. My mom and I lived in the guest house. He lived in the main house. So that was the one person that I knew that was going to high school with me. But it was his friends that were...
Oh, no.
So it was kind of hard to avoid those people because they were his friends and they would end up coming to the house anyway. Him and I had a good relationship, and then that's where we had the falling out, and it just we just kept our distance after a little while. Yeah.
Wow. What was different about going to Arcadia versus, you had been transitioning to different schools many times before that? Was it just that the demographic was different?
I mean, even the other schools, I've been to other schools where I was also the minority, like in the Valley. It was a mostly Hispanic population. So I would be one of the few white individuals in a lot of the classes. So the diversity wasn't necessarily the issue, I would say. It was just the crowd of people that I ended up being around. I did private school as well, and I went from like 12 kids in my class to then 30 kids in my class to then high school having like, it felt like I think probably 40 kids in the class. Yeah.
Wow. And I'm curious, what were your strategies to make friends in all those times? Like, how do you approach a group or even an individual and be like, you want to be my friend? I don't know. It's been so long since I did that,
I don't think I was as good at it in school. I've definitely got better with it now, being more of a people person. But I think it just started with like finding something that I liked about the person and then just sparking the conversation, saying what I liked about them, whether it was something that they had or something they were wearing or something that they did or said. Then that would start and instigate the conversation with them. And sometimes it would work, and sometimes they would just kind of turn their shoulder and walk away.
Can you remember a time when you approached someone and later on that became ended up being a really good friendship?
Yeah, actually, one of the few people that we don't talk as much, but from high school, Stephanie, we were in a math class together. I think it was like sophomore year, and honestly, I don't remember what sparked the conversation, but we just kind of clicked. And in high school, we hung out some, but not a whole lot. It wasn't until actually after high school that we would continue to hang out with each other in Sierra Madre. We would go to town all the time, and I would say she was one of the strongest relationships that I had.
I see.
Yeah.
And you said your bullying experience at Arcadia High School started because of a comment that someone made or that you made?
I think so. My neighbor, my friend, I did not like him in any like romantic capacity. He had something towards me at some point, and high school love, it's very arbitrary. There's not a lot going there, but the girl that liked him, so that she had a crush on him, was not happy that we were living close to each other. So she started this very negative comments to me or to people around me. And that just kind of blew up into a little thing. It was mostly talk. I mean, they would say things like, "Oh, I'm a home wrecker" or something like that. But we would be neighbors, and our living situation was not to our doing. We had no say in that. It's just very immature high school comments.
And what did your support system at that time look like?
I had my mom and dad, my brothers, some friends. That was about it.
Were you able to share with them like what you were going through?
A little bit. Ooh, it's gonna make me emotional. Sorry. I haven't thought about it in a long time. Wow. Yeah, I don't think it was at fault of them. I think I wasn't as vocal about it. And that probably is why I didn't get as much support as I could have. That's why I did get back into jiu-jitsu, though. The people in jiu-jitsu, obviously, I wouldn't talk to them much about it, but jiu-jitsu is a very interesting sport. You become very vulnerable when you're training because you're putting yourself in these very hard situations physically, and that would help relieve a lot of the stress and the, I guess, emotional load of it. Yeah.
My wife and I are quite intentional about the things that we do and how we respond to our children, so that in their times of distress, that their initial reaction would be to come to us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a mom, like, can you see the things that either were there for you or weren't there for you, and how are you,
Yeah.
how do you envision it being different for your children?
Definitely. I mean, they're still young, so they're still learning about their emotions to begin with. But my husband and I do make the intention of allowing them to have those emotions and just kind of being there present for them to have them, and then naming those emotions and sharing like how we can work through those emotions, different options that you can go through, or ways to think about things differently. Doing a lot of perspective type things. I don't remember where I heard this, but it was called perspective glasses. So we have our kids put the perspective glasses on, and it's like my oldest, not my 2-year-old, but like, oh, these are his sister's eyes, Sibel's eyes. Is what I'm doing right now going to affect, or is she going to be happy if I do this to her, if I'm looking at her through her eyes? So little things like that, just to spark the conversation. But yes, definitely there's things, you know, we each want to be better parents than our parents were to us. So I would find things that I can support my kids more with, especially as they continue to get older.
Yeah. It seems like that was, you know, a difficult memory for you. If it's okay to go back, if it's not, you can let me know, just so that other people who may be experiencing what you had gone through, like what would you have wished that you would have done differently for yourself, or anybody would have done differently for you at that time?
I think doing differently, I would understand that they, especially my parents, that they are there for me. They're not going to be mad at me. It's their job is to be supportive of me, and they were supportive of me. So me being more vocal would allowed me to do that. I mean, at that age, there wasn't much you could do other than either be vocal or not vocal about it. Looking back at it, I would tell myself, like, if I could talk to my teenage self, like, it's going to be okay. Those people aren't going to be in your life in 15 years from now. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. That must have been tough, given that they're like right there, right? That the person is right there every day.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, I had jiu-jitsu, so that's when I started jiu-jitsu, so I would just go train every day. I helped with the kids' classes at the gym, so I had a lot of time there. I was a nerd, so I really liked doing my homework, so I would just stay inside and do my homework, or go to my friend's house instead of being at home. Yeah.
So that was sort of the genesis of you going back to jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, how old were you, like 14, 15?
So it wasn't until I was 17 that I started in jiu-jitsu. So 14, 15 is freshman, sophomore year of high school. There wasn't really any issue. Didn't feel anything. It wasn't until I was 16, 17, like junior year, that's where that stuff started to happen, and I decided to get back into something that would give me confidence. I had experienced jiu-jitsu when I was a lot younger at an after-school program at one of the schools I was in, and that gave me the insight to be able to search out for it again and find it again. Yeah.
Talk to me about your mindset where you're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to, get this skill. And then if she follows me home, I'm going to tap her out. Or like, what was your mindset going into jiu-jitsu then?
I think there was probably a little bit of that in the back of my head. I think that was like, if I needed to, that I could do something to protect myself, or just stand my ground, not have to like cower into just hiding myself. And I knew a lot of those people in high school had never trained jiu-jitsu before either, and that I couldn't one up them in a sense there. So yeah, that was definitely a thought there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would certainly think that too, right? Like if the opportunity presented itself, like I would be able to stand up to them.
Yeah.
Did that opportunity ever come?
No. I mean, there was a moment where she's like, "Oh, come outside and fight me," and I knew better not to even engage in that type of conversation, because it's not worth anything.
So that's what I kind of want to get at, is like, okay, so now you do have the skills, but then you avoided the physical conflict.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, one of the main things I teach the kids at the gym, and that I use for myself and for my kids, is you don't need to instigate anything. If you need to use it to protect yourself, then use it. Like if they're coming at you, use it. You're not going to be in trouble. You're not going to get in trouble in any sense. But it's a lot more powerful and strong as an individual if you can just not let them affect you. Like they can say or do whatever you want, but it's in your power to decide if that's going to affect you or not. Like they can, one of the things I say to my kids as well is like, you can call someone a cat, and they can choose to take that as a nice thing, or they can choose to take that as an insult. The way that you say something is what matters. So if you're saying it to like your sister in a mean way, then she's not going to like it. And it goes the other way around. If someone says something to you that you don't like it, then you just take it and throw it away. You don't need to accept what they're saying to you. So now, like, teaching that to the kids is really ignore unless they're coming at you physically, them coming at you emotionally is often them dealing with their own issue that they're coming out, they're having an outburst about, and not letting it. You keep taking the power and not letting it affect you.
Yeah. That's a, important lesson to learn. And at such a young age, many adults still may struggle with that, right?
Yes.
Hearing something that's said to them and making it true.
Yeah.
Right. So in that, I guess, confrontation with this bully, did you already feel at that moment that this is who you were, like that you were able to just not hear those comments or that you could brush it off?
I think it still hit me. I still have an emotional response now to it. But I think at that time I had the understanding of what was worth my time and what wasn't worth my time. And knowing that getting into an altercation with her was not going to help me in the long run. If anything, it would just give her more fuel to try to come at me again, and that wasn't worth it. Or, I think I just had the understanding at that age that it wasn't worth it. It's not going to affect me in 5 years from now. So don't even get involved in it. Yeah.
Is there a moment, there was certainly a moment for me, like, is there a moment when you're like, I know I can defend myself. I know that I can take this person, not that I will, but I know that, and now I've changed. I moved from where I was before, maybe, fearful, to this. Like, was there a moment for you in that? And like, how do you, as a teacher, let people know when they're
at that
there?
Point?
Yeah.
I think personally for myself, when I started training jiu-jitsu at that gym 12 and a half years ago, I was one of only 2 girls at the gym. Obviously the youngest. There was the kids program, but I was 17, so I was in the adults program. So I had to almost every day go with the guys. Larger adult men as well as younger teens like myself. But seeing that I wasn't getting hurt going with those individuals, that I could still have some control, even sometimes, jiu-jitsu is a point or a submission game. Taking the advantage of those people that are bigger or stronger than myself, I think that's where my click happened, that like, okay, if I can handle this person, then if it came down to it, I could handle someone else. For the kids at my gym, it comes down to testing them, not with like an actual test, but allowing them to go with someone who is in a stronger, maybe more technical or physically stronger opponent, and also going with someone who's weaker and maybe not as technical, a newer student perhaps, because then it gives them that kind of checks and balances. They get to see for themselves that they can push at it when they need to, but they can also help and be a guiding hand for someone who's not, and that gives them that little bit of control, I think.
Yeah. Was there somebody in your jiu-jitsu journey that was really influential with you, and how did that relationship evolve?
There was actually a few people. A lot of us that started around the same time, we all decided to be a little bit more competitive and actually do competitions. So we would spend Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, our professor, who was a big influence for all of us, he would make us do fundamentals class, advanced class, then competition class, and sparring afterwards. So we'd be there Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 4 hours for the night, just training jiu-jitsu.
4 hours?
4 hours,
What?
yes. We were young. We didn't have real jobs. We had time.
What is the cost for that?
Well, you pay a monthly membership.
Oh, okay.
So you're not paying per class.
I was like,
yeah.
oh.
It's a monthly membership. But we just all, we all just loved jiu-jitsu. It was just all consuming for us. We became friends because of the amount of time that we were spent training together, and that just continued the relationship. And the only place that would ever be open to eat afterwards would be BJ's. So we would go to BJ's and eat afterwards, because at 10 o'clock in Arcadia, there was nothing else open on a weekday. But that group of people pretty much all of them continue to train jiu-jitsu too. So we all have our black belts together now. And that speaks a lot for jiu-jitsu in general. There's the blue belt curse. A lot of people who train jiu-jitsu will know this. If you train, once you get the blue belt, a lot of people will drop out at that time, because that's like the first step goal that you have, and then you kind of relax a little bit. But getting past that blue belt is kind of a big deal. So to have this core group of us that all started the same, continue all the way through the same, regardless of jobs, relationships, moving, things like that, we all still managed to stick to training and earn our black belts together. Yeah.
Do you want to say who they are?
Yeah, there's Denny Ding. You have to say both names, Denny and Ding. Hector, Glenn, Vince, Dieta, D, we call her. My husband, his brother, his other brother was training with us as well. That was it for our core group. And then there were a few people that came in slightly afterwards that now they've earned their black belts as well, which were a big part of the group, like Michelle. My mother-in-law actually also trains, and she earned her black belt as well. Yeah, it's a big group.
Wow. It sounds like it.
Yeah.
I'm interested in how the belts progress.
Yeah.
But you met your husband.
Yes.
Trained jiu-jitsu. So how did that come about?
So he started at that gym just a couple months after me.
Where was the gym, or where is the gym?
It's Logic Jiu-Jitsu in Arcadia.
That's where you were training since you were 17.
Yes. So it's off Huntington and First. It's a tiny little gym. It's a hole in the wall, but it's a great atmosphere. Actually, back in the day, we were Gracie Baja, and then due to politics, my professor left that gym, and then he started ZR, which is his uncle, who he learned jiu-jitsu from. And then due to politics again, the name changed again to Logic Jiu-Jitsu. But it's been the same gym, same people in the gym the whole time. It's just the name that's changed. But yes, my husband and I, he started training just a couple months after I did at the gym. So I say I started before him. But we did not talk to each other for the first 2 years. We would just say, hi, how are you? It was never more than that.
Your husband started training when you were there at 17?
Yes, so
Wow,
he's 20.
Okay.
So he's 3 years older than I am. We actually both went to Arcadia High School as well. So he was 3 years above me. He was a senior when I was a freshman, but we had no idea of each other at the time. We didn't meet until training jiu-jitsu.
You just ignore each other for 2 years.
yeah, we ignored each other. We other than the hi, how are you, and training together. We never saw each other outside of the gym unless it was a team thing or something like that. And then it wasn't until my 20th birthday that we started talking. We actually started talking on Snapchat. And to this day, we still use Snapchat to text each other. It's just become a habit of ours. We don't actually text on the phone. We use the Snapchat app to text each other. But yeah, we started talking, and we didn't tell anyone at the gym that we were dating because we wanted to kind of see how it would work for us before we got the team involved. And then I remember the day we decided to finally tell everyone a couple months into it, we just walked into one of the team dinners holding hands. And everyone looked at us like, what? Yeah. Since then, we've been training jiu-jitsu together. It's our life. We have our own gym now, obviously, so it's every day for us. But it definitely had a big part of our relationship.
Wow. Yeah. It's just coming surprise.
Yeah.
And then did you still train with him and spar with him and all that?
Yeah, we kept training together. I hated training with him.
Why is that?
Because it when you're training jiu-jitsu, you are putting yourself in these very physically hard positions, and you're trying to progress with technique. And going with your spouse, sometimes you get a little hot-headed, and if it doesn't work, then you get irritated, or it does help us get our frustrations out. We get to literally choke each other if we wanted to. If we're having an argument, we can just choke each other, take it out on the mat. But he would challenge me, and that's why I hated it. It was good for me, but it was challenging for me too, because he knew my game. He knew how I'd liked to do certain moves, and he would just shut me down on them right away.
Oh,
yeah.
I see.
And I couldn't do that to him until recently. Now I know when I get him, when he starts his little nervous giggle laugh, then I know okay, I got him. I can hold him here for a second. and enjoy. Yeah.
Wow, that's funny. Thanks for sharing that. Well, Anthea, we ask each guest to bring an item of significance with them.
Yes.
What did you bring with you today?
So I used to attend a folklore dance group in Mendocino Woodlands up north. And it was a big part of my life. I started it after 8th grade. My dance teacher in school, he helped run this dance camp, and he brought me with him. My parents hate folk dancing. I honestly don't know where I even started to like it. It is very old.
What is folk dancing?
So each culture has their own traditional dances, almost tribal dances. So a lot of like mariachi is the music aspect of it, but there are the traditional dances that go with it that have traditional costumes, and you're dancing certain steps to certain music. Hungary, Bulgaria, Croatia, Greece, every country literally has a version of this. So this dance camp that I would attend, it was a week long in the woods, no electricity except for the dance hall and the kitchen and the bathrooms. The cabins had a fireplace in it and a cot, and it would be freezing, but you just go sleep in the cabin in the woods. And then every night we would have, it was mostly adults that attended the camp. So every night would be a cocktail night, and it would be the theme of whatever cultures we were learning that week. So we would have let's say a Greek teacher come in and teach us Greek dances, and then we'd have a Greek cocktail night with Greek food and Greek drinks. Obviously, when I was in 8th grade, I wasn't partaking in that. But each night would be something different, and the first year was very new to me, but it just felt very nice. It felt like a community. So I continued to go even through high school and everything, and I kept going for like 10 years. So every year we would have a pin, and it would be a new design every year. It had your name on it, so you'd wear it so everyone knew what name you were or what your name was. But they're all different designs, and we would collect them. So I went for 10 years, 11 years actually, and I have one from every year. The group of people that I became very close with, we were all close in age with each other, and similar stories as each other. No one else in their life really did folk dancing, but we just all ended up being at the camp together. Someone brought them and we continued with them. And the being in the woods is one experience in itself, away from civilization and like electricity in our phones for a whole week. Really allowed us to bond together, and learning about these cultures is really amazing. If you're into dancing and music, then it was a very amazing experience to get to see these different ways of life. So the camp has since stopped actually after COVID. It's a nonprofit, so it was already declining because there aren't many young people that want to do folk dancing. So it was already declining in attendance. So we finished our last year in a bang, with a big party and everything, but it's no longer going on. But it was a big part of my life in general, but my development, I think, in appreciating other cultures and like exposing myself to other worldly views, really.
Yeah. Well, this is really cool. How many of these buttons do you have?
I have 11. Yeah, I have 11. But there are people at the camp. So the camp started in, I think it was like 1965. There are people that have
It says 62 here.
62. Yeah, there are people that have pins from the very first camp, and have been attending every year since then. My dance teacher's son actually was one of those. He was there as a baby and continued to go every year. Wow. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for bringing that in. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Did you ever do like obon? Would obon, Japanese obon, be a part like?
We've
part of
done,
that?
yeah, we've done them. I honestly, I won't remember any of the steps or any of it, but yes, I remember specifically we had a Japanese year where we had, I went to the camp, and then there were also other weekend camps that we would go to. I'm not remembering which one it was at, but yes, I am familiar with them. Yeah.
Okay. I want to get into like your life now as a mother and opening your gym, but let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Sometimes, even the best of us can slip up. That's why the law offices of Scott Wormuth are here to pick you back up again.
And while they strive to get you the biggest compensation possible, oh my gosh!
Their main concern is your health and recovery. They work closely with doctors and insurance companies to make sure you get the proper medical treatment.
Initial consultations are free, so give them a call.
At the law offices of Scott Warmoth, we're with you all the way.
I'm Scott Warmoth. We've been fighting for your rights for more than 40 years.
All right, we're back with Anthea. Anthea, when we come back from the break, we like to ask questions from this deck of cards called Icebreakers. Okay. And it's just a fun way for the audience to get to know us a little bit better. So Victoria and I will be answering also. Okay, so here we go. What was your favorite subject in school?
Oh, science. And I will be even more specific. In 4th grade, my science teacher, Mr. Luis, which I have been trying to find in the world. He moved to Spain, and I have not been able to find him, simply to thank him because his science class, the way that he taught, just was very inspiring, I guess, and that's what instigated my love to continue looking into science, and I think that's what started my love for herbal medicine and getting into the sciences of that and finding more of that information.
Okay, awesome. Victoria?
I would say science as well. Just like kind of seeing like how like God made the world and like how it all came together and stuff like that.
Awesome. I don't know that I like this, but this was my like the subject that I did well in math, right? I did well in math. I was very competitive. So when they would do like the times table testing, like I was always the first one to turn it in. And then I think in 7th grade, my teacher, Mr. Zabel at Inez, he saw something in me. He asked me to join the math club. And I was like, what's that? And he put me in, I guess there's different competitions. And the one that I was in was speed math. So you would, there was a projector and then they would flash a problem on the board. And you had 5 seconds to answer it.
Yeah.
And then they would do the next. And then, you know, that was my role on the team. So, but now as an adult, I think I know why I like math. Because it had a definite answer, and I think because then I couldn't get in trouble. Like, meaning like it was correct or it wasn't correct. But then the subjective one, like it felt scary to me. Yeah. That's sort of deeper look into my favorite subject. But I think that's why I liked math. I was like, okay, this is for sure either right or wrong.
Yeah,
so.
Or there was a way to find the answer always. Yeah. Have you ever seen those kids that do, I don't know how they do, the things with their hands and then there's like numbers flashing on the screen and then they just magically get the answer correct within like 10 seconds? I don't know what method that is, but I want to know about it.
But now I look at it like I'll use a calculator if I need to, right? And all that time, all that spent, like, I'm like, I don't even ever use it.
That's what we always say. When are we going to use this algebra?
Right? Like, I never use it. So anyway, if you're listening or watching, what was your favorite subject in school? Let us know in the comments. So, Anthea, there's a lot of directions that your life went. There's, motherhood, marriage, your herbalist business, and then also opening your own gym, right? Yes. So maybe you go so where does your journey go after you get married?
So getting married was probably one of the easiest decisions that we made. We wanted to make start a family, make our family start growing, and marriage was just like the thing we needed to do to make it easier. So we didn't actually have a big wedding. Actually, our marriage license says Compton on it. We got married in a Compton car wash parking lot. The woman we met went to go sign the papers for us in the part while she was doing her errands. Now it says Compton on there, so it was one of our favorite stories. But we wanted to start a family right away, so we started our family, and I was still working at the time while I was pregnant, and then COVID happened. COVID was very interesting for us. My son was born the week of the shutdown, so everything shut down on Friday. We were in the hospital the Wednesday before that, and I ended up having him Friday evening. So had we not already been in the hospital, my husband would not have been allowed to come in with me, because that was like when the strict shutdowns happened. And I just remember taking him home and being behind the glass doors, seeing grandparents through the glass doors for the first month, because it was COVID. We had no idea what was going on. The world was in turmoil. And But then my husband had to go back to work, and he's a deputy, sheriff deputy. So he had to go back to working with transients and the public. So kind of staying in our hole wasn't realistic anymore. So we opened up after that. But the combination of having my son and also being COVID led to a layoff quitting situation at the office that I was working at. And I say that's a blessing in disguise because it allowed me, one, to make sure that I was really focusing with having the time with my son, and also it allowed me to have the time to go into my herbal medicine, which that's what I went to school for. That's what my passion really was. And we were fortunate enough that we could go off of my husband's income. We didn't spend money on a wedding or anything like that, so we got to save all that money so that we could start our family like that. So because of COVID, I started my herbal medicine business more seriously, and then I had him, so I was starting my homeschooling journey with him. And I still continued to train jiu-jitsu through all that time. I trained actually jiu-jitsu while I was pregnant with him up until I was 8.5 months pregnant. The 2 weeks before I had him is when I stopped training. It's a different style of training. I'm obviously not going crazy. Those black belts that I mentioned, they were the ones that I would trust and I would continue to train with during the pregnancy. And then we would meet up during the COVID lockdowns and have mats at home, and we would still continue to train with each other. I was the first of our jiu-jitsu group to have a child, so it did change kind of the relationship a little bit because we couldn't go around as often. And then I continued with my herbal medicine, but we decided to have another child, my daughter. And again, I trained with her all the way through the entire pregnancy. And then it started to get harder to continue training jiu-jitsu. So we saw this place around the corner from our house that was open. I was like, what would it look like if we opened a gym right here just so we could be closer to home to train? Simply because we wanted to be selfish and have a closer to home to train was the instigation, what started it for us. And so next thing we knew, we were looking at the place and we signed the lease. We didn't have any plan. We were just like, we'll figure it out. And that's what we did. We figured it out 1.5 years ago, and it's going really well for us. And now we get to share our love for jiu-jitsu with everyone else. People that have been in our life but never really wanted to get into jiu-jitsu have now come to our gym and have started their own journey of jiu-jitsu, including one of who now is very close with us, our cousin, my husband's cousin. They were born 3 days apart, but over time they kind of drifted through family issues and stuff. We kind of drifted apart, but we were brought back together through jiu-jitsu, and they started training at our gym, and now they're the biggest part of my kid's life. And it's very much the environment that I want. It's a chosen family that I want my kids to grow up in.
Yeah, that sounds so awesome to have that right there with you, and that you can spend that time with your chosen family and then also your real family. Mm-hmm. And how old are your kids?
4.5 and 2.5.
And when did you make the decision to homeschool?
Before they were born. I always knew that I wanted to homeschool, partly because I know that it can be beneficial in giving that one-on-one time that a lot of, especially public schools, they don't get the opportunity to have because the classes are so full. And then as well, my son and I actually have, it's called the MTHFR gene mutation, which it makes getting vaccinations a little difficult due to reactions that you can have. So due to the way that the laws are in California, if you're not vaccinated, you can't go to any school setting. And the decision my husband and I made was that we were going to hold off on some of that stuff. And so that's kind of, we knew that was going to prevent us from being able to get into a type of school that we wanted to. So it just kind of made sense that we would be homeschooling and get to take control and be a part of my kid's life 24/7 and not have to have somebody else do that part that I would like to do with them.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, how did you convince your husband or family? Because that would be a big obstacle for many.
It was definitely a hard one. We actually almost didn't get together because of it. It was a discussion we had before we got married while we were still dating, because it was a hard answer for me, in the sense that I was not going to budge on it because of my family medical history. I knew that was the decision that I was going to make. So we had to talk about it before we got serious and get into that marriage. He was a little harder to convince at the very beginning, and we kind of came to an ultimatum, like, should there be something that we would need to, then we would talk about it and take care of it in the moment. I'm not opposed. I mean, having herbal medicine as my background, I have definitely not leniency, and I'm more inclined to go towards that type of medicine, but I'm not opposed to modern medicine. If I need to, then I will use it, or I will take my son to the hospital, things like that. And that was kind of the decision that was made between him and I. His family did not take to that too well. I think that was another kind of peg in the board that started to break the family relationship up. His family was very welcoming in the beginning, and I think it wasn't until we started to get more serious that we started to have a little bit more issues in realizing that, you know, when you make your own family, it's a combination of your roots and your partner's roots, and you both have to give a little bit on what traditions and things that you want to make your family become the primary family. And for us, that was one of those big decisions, and for his family, it's not the norm. So that started to be a big pushback from them, like that I was either controlling him to make these decisions because he can't make his own decisions, or that I was crazy. And just because I had a different little family view and lifestyle view that they were not in line with. There were many other things like that, though.
Yeah. One thing about my wife made clear before we got married was like that when we say family now, that we are the family.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like we discuss things, how our family
yes.
Moves forward, right? Yeah, I remember that specifically.
I think that was very hard for his family. He's from a Hispanic background, Mexican background, and I can't speak to other families because I've only experienced his family, but I think a lot of their core belief is like mom's house is the family. So it was kind of just of nature that we would all go there throughout the week to mom's house, and that was just like part of your routine. We just had to do it until things started started interfering with that on our own family. Like if there were things that we wanted to do as a family, just to have our own family memories, we were required to invite the entire family or tell them of our plans so that they could decide if they wanted to join or not. And some of those things were like, no, this is a memory I want for my family. We like you said, we are the core family now they are the extended family. And I think that's still hard for a lot of his siblings. He has 4 siblings. It's still hard for some of his siblings to grasp or really want. Yeah.
It sounds like you've found a way forward though with you and your husband.
Yeah, we have. Unfortunately, it has meant that we've had to kind of remove ourselves from his family. It wasn't easy to do. We still talk about it on a regular basis to make sure that we're still good with these decisions. But it was just, sorry. When you get in a marriage, you don't want to have a bad relationship with them. Unfortunately, my in-laws specifically have a hard time with respecting different beliefs, to put it nicely, I guess. The comments that have been made towards my family or me are not things that I want my kids growing up around. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's been very hurtful for you to experience.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of it, like I mentioned earlier, was not letting it affect you, right? I said telling my kids not to let the words affect you. There is a hard part where when it's continual, that you try not to let it consume you. And like I still have an emotional response to it. But I think I have moved past the like anger of it. Now it's just the like missing out on certain family aspects, worrying that I'm having my kids miss out on certain things. But then I get reminded of the attempts that we have made to try to correct it or try to work with them to make it a better environment, and not having the response from them. And it takes two to have a relationship. In this case, the family, us being one family and them being another family, the two families. And it just wasn't happening on their end. And it got to a point where it's like, we continue to go down this path and there continues to be more hurt because no one is making changes for the other. Or we just put our foot down and we move on and live our life the way that we want to, without having to worry about other people's opinions about us. And honestly, when we made that decision is when we started to thrive as a family. That's when we opened the gym. It's when we got into our routine of homeschooling and raising the kids. And I would say we have not been happier since then. It's been the best decision we could make for our family. It's hard to remove yourself from family, but when it's toxic and not supportive or positive, it can really weigh you down. And I think we got to experience that when we took a break from them and realized that we needed to.
Yeah, it sure sounds like it. You know, we need to, as parents, show up as our best self for our children, right? And things that come into our lives that affect that is ultimately going to hurt our kids as well. So I'm sure it wasn't an easy thing for you and your husband, but you know, now you've got your gym and now your kids are homeschooled with you. That all sounds very positive. And I don't mean to shift gears so abruptly, but talk about your gym. Like, what is your philosophy that you guys are putting out into the world with Logic?
I mean, each gym will have its own identity. So we're affiliated with the other Logic gyms. So the Logic name comes from the headquarters Arcadia where we started training. Each gym has their own identity. Ours, my husband and I don't compete anymore. We're busy working, being parents, and at the gym we don't have time to train to compete. So we created a very family environment. So we have a lot of parents of our kids that train. The parents are also training with us. We don't attract, I say like the MMA or UFC type people that are very aggressive. It's a very relaxing gym. Come do what you can, stay for as long as you can, and do your best for when you are there. We're non-traditional with a lot of like bowing to the headmasters and things like that. We just bow to each other and simple things like that. Jiu-Jitsu, techniques-wise, we do the traditional techniques. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, we were starting to talk about before. There's a gentleman named Keenan Cornelius who's a very big name in the Jiu-Jitsu world, and he does a good job breaking down Jiu-Jitsu history. And he actually pulled out archives from the U.S. that predates archives from Brazil. So it indicates that American Jiu-Jitsu was actually here before Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think the two have kind of just molded and mended together. And I don't think anyone will really start a whole argument over it because it's just Jiu-Jitsu. But it's been around for a long time, and recently it's become, because of UFC, I think, and MMA and Ronda Rousey, people like that have really made it more public and made it more of a thing. So now there are more gyms that are opening. So Jiu-Jitsu is one of those things, too, where you're physically exhausted, you're mentally exhausted, you're emotionally exhausted, but you keep wanting to go back to better yourself because no day is exactly the same. It's not like a workout where you're doing the same thing over and over again. Each time you train even if you're training with the same person all week, the role is never going to be the same as it was on 1 week or one day versus the other day. So it's a very exciting sport in that sense. And because we're all becoming vulnerable together, for all gyms, but ours, we have our family. Like, we have people who hang out afterwards at the gym, and we clean together, we work together, we all have the kids that are training together, so we're raising our kids together. It's, like I said, it's a very chosen family. And we were grateful enough that our cousin and her husband and her kids became a part of our gym, and now are like a big part of our life on a daily basis now. Yeah.
That all sounds really wonderful. Before we go on to the final segment of the show, I just want to ask, like, have you ever seen the first UFCs and watched Royce fight?
Yeah. They're definitely different than today's fights. They're worth a watch because you get to see how things have changed and how interesting jiu-jitsu can be, especially with other sports. Mm-hmm. In terms of self-defense, I think jiu-jitsu is one of the best sports that you can get into because it's not memorizing a scenario. You're just reacting, and you're using your partner's body against themselves and your body against them. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Anthea, we're going to move on to the final segment of the show where we get to learn more about what you like in the San Gabriel Valley. So, Anthea, this is what we call the SGV3, and we ask you to share your 3 favorite or most memorable places or experiences in the San Gabriel Valley. So, what would be number 1?
Number 1 would be in Sierra Madre. It's not there anymore. I think one of your other attendees of the podcast actually mentioned what replaced it, but it used to be Beantown, and now it's replaced. I think it's called Ellie's. It's owned by the same people that own the Poppy Seed Cafe.
Oh. It used to be called Beantown?
It used to be called Beantown.
I think it's called Emmy's.
Emmy's,
yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it got replaced by Emmy's, yes. So Beantown. Not because it was a very old place. It was kind of the Friends Cafe vibe, but it became a important spot for me because that's where my friend Stephanie and I would meet on a weekly, even twice a week basis, just to kind of download each other with what was going on in our lives and check in with each other. And it just became a routine, like a safe place to go and just talk to each other. So that was a big spot. She's since moved to San Diego, so we obviously don't get to see each other very often, but I still think of Beantown all the time. I have gone to Emmy's since then, and it's a cute spot. It's not the same because I have that memory of Beantown, but Sierra Madre, that strip right there, is a big part of that comfort time after high school, I would say.
Yeah. I'm sure all the people that live there will remember Beantown. And what's the second place?
The second place is actually a house. It is in the border of like Doherty and Bradbury. So my husband's a deputy, and he had a call to this house, and he arrived, and it was an elderly man. He kept hearing something in his ears, like a banging. So he thought one of the neighbors were doing construction or something in off hours of the day or night. He ended up having, tinnitus in his ears.
Oh, tinnitus.
He had
tinnitus tonight.
Yeah. But the sounds in the ear. But by going to check on him, he kind of developed a relationship with this older man. He was in his 90s. I think he was 99. He since recently passed away. But this man would tell us these stories of he lived like 3 lifetimes. Obviously, being that old, he's lived 3 lifetimes. He was a millionaire. He lost it all. He made himself a millionaire. He lost it all. He made himself a millionaire, and then he eventually passed away. But that man, because my husband went to go check on him regularly, developed a relationship. He was the one that started for my husband this idea of like, find a way to work for yourself. And I think that's what sparked something in my husband to look into this journey of like opening our own gym. I come from a family of entrepreneurs. Like my parents worked for themselves. My brothers work for themselves. They have their own businesses. I have my own business. For my husband, it was a little foreign of a concept because his family was like, you go to school, you get a job. But this man, this house, he instigated that for him, and we kind of adopted him as like our grandpa. We'd bring our kids to him. We'd bring him dinner, and he would like give our kids balloons and candies and stuff. But his house was just a kind of a pivotal moment for us that put us on the path that we're on now, I think.
Yeah, you can see that. And what's the third place?
The third one would be our gym, because that was such a big life step. Logic Jiu-Jitsu, being in Glendora was a little further away from the rest of our family and the rest of our friends. So we knew we were going to start a new chapter physically with the gym and familiar-wise with the chosen family that was going to be at the gym. And I think it also, even at a young age, our kids are getting to see, like, there is a result with the work that you put in. Our kid, I mean, Avery, he loves construction and stuff like that. So he was helping us build the benches before the gym. He helped us roll out the mats and nail the mats down to the floor. And my dad is in construction, so he helped us build our dressing room walls and stuff. But one, that big step, and then two, just our kids getting to see, like, this is ours. We get to call this ours. We are in control of this. We are in the power of making a difference in other people's lives just because we've opened the doors to this place. Yeah. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. If people want to check out your gym or get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Instagram. Instagram is logicbjj_Glendora. There's a few Logic gyms, so Glendora is ours. We're all related with each other, so you can connect either way. And then my herbal business is a little bit trickier. It's called Epiones Herbs. It's EPIONES HERBS, Epiones Herbs. But social media these days is the best way to find us. Yeah, or just come into the gym and train with us.
Oh, and what's the address of the gym?
The gym is 1333 South Grand Avenue. It's right off of Grand and Gladstone. It's in that plaza where there's like the AAA, there's the appliance outlets, Kiddie Academy. We're right in the corner there.
Awesome. Well, Anthea, thank you so much for coming today and sharing your story with us.
Thank you.
Oh, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
There you go. Another episode in the books for you. I hope that you guys enjoyed that journey, from someone taking something negative and turning it into something positive. Actually, multiple times, right, in her life. And, here, like, we started this conversation or this episode with this idea that, getting bullying, I've only seen go one way or the other. And here is clearly a way where someone has turned that experience into something very positive for many other people. So I hope that you'll go check them out, Logic Jiu-Jitsu in Glendora. Thank you for spending this time with us. If you want to check out our full catalog of episodes, they're on our website, mysgv.net. Don't forget to like, share, and consider subscribing if you like this kind of content. If you want to support us in a more meaningful way, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon, MySGV Podcast. And until next week, we'll see you then. Thank you for joining us on the MySGV Podcast. Check out more of our content on our website, mysgv.net. This show was produced by Scott Wormuth, directed by Russell Mano, edited by Victoria Allers, and original music by Yone OG. If you'd like to join us next week as we capture and share more stories from our diverse community, feel welcome.
Nice matter. No, kind of matter.